My third point, thoughts on the growing years. On the 8th day, when it was time to circumcise Jesus, according to the law of Moses, Joseph and Mary took Jesus to Jerusalem and to present him to the Lord. Joseph and Mary were good Jews. They kept the commandment, they followed, and in fact it's more than this. If you read from the Old Testament law, the woman after giving birth ought to go through a process of purification. The child ought to be presented in the temple to be dedicated. And often on the 8th day, the child will be disunatkan, circumcised. And in the temple, when they offer a sacrifice, the rich people can offer a goat or a lamb or an ox, but the poorer people, they offer a pair of turtle dove or young pigeon. Yeah. So all these were there. And beside that, on top of that, there is that annual pilgrimage to Jerusalem that they need to do. We also have annual pilgrimage starting next week. Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, we have the annual pilgrimage to go back. But behind here, there is a systematic, there is an intentional and systematic helping the sons and the daughter. The Jewish people has a structure, a systematic structure, an intentional structure where their sons and daughters are taught the faith and taught the word. And Jesus Christ would have grown up in such a structure. He would have grown up in such a structure. How about us? Do we have a structure where we can grow up? I want to share something with you. This is called the Abbot, an ancient rabbinic document. It almost like spell out, a prototype or a lifestyle of a Jew, what it should be. Yeah. At birth, one is circumcised. At 5 years old, one is fit for the Torah. At 10 years old, for the Mishnah. At 13 years old, for the commandment. At 15 years old, for the Talmud. At 18 years old, they enter the bride chamber. That means they can get married. Is that 18 years old? You didn't get it, never mind. At 20, they pursue a calling. At 30, they are given authority. At 40, they gain wisdom and discernment. At 50, they are able to give counsel. At 60, they become an elder. But we retire at 60. Don't have to. This is Jewish, Jewish at that time. At 70, their hair grow gray. Ours starts at about 30 or 40 years old. At 80, they need special strength, not able to walk so well. At 90, the back is bowed. At 100, a man is as one that has already died and passed away and ceased from the world. Very interesting document as I found this and look at it. How at different stage of life, there's like a blueprint for the Jewish person growing up. But what I would like each other to look at is this. At birth, one is circumcised. At 5 years old, they study the Torah, which is basically the 5 books of the Pentateuch. At 10 years old, they study the Mishnah, which is actually the exegesis of oral tradition of the Jewish leaders, Jewish teacher. And then at 13 years old, the commandments, basically look into the 10 commandments. At 15 years old, the Talmud, which is the civil and the ceremonial laws regarding the Israelite people. Now this to me is something that somehow we miss. Of course, we have our Sunday schools, we have our youth ministry. It has evolved into this lah. But even our Sunday school and youth ministry, often there is not enough, to me, my own personal opinion, not enough emphasis on the Word of God for the person to be grounded properly. This is the real life after Christmas. And as I reflect further, I think the Jews were called the people of God right from the selection of Abraham. From Abraham to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob, from Jacob to the 12 tribes, and how they ended up in Egypt. And they came out from Egypt, they went into the promised land. They led out of Egypt by Moses, went into the promised land under the leadership of Joshua and so forth. And therefore, faith and culture is already very much intertwined, really. Faith and culture is already very much intertwined for the Jewish people. We can be a Chinese by ethnic, or we can be a Sarawakian, an Iban. Sarawakian, can I see your hand? Who is Sarawakian? All right, yeah. Only one hand? Wow, quite lonely. Okay, quite lonely. And then we have some Myanmar people. Sabahan ada kah? Oh, Sabahan lebih sikit. Okay, yeah. So, and then some Myanmar people, am I right? Yeah. I don't know what tribe are you from the? Chin. Okay, so we have our ethnic group, we have our nationality, our citizenship, and then we also have our faith. Now look at these three things. We have our ethnic group, our race. We have our citizenship, the country we belong to. And then we have our faith as Christian. We have these three things. Yeah. And I think they are not very integrated. So Chinese New Year, we go back lah. We do our Chinese thing. Yeah. And then you want to look for Chikyong to get your ampao from him. So we do those things, yeah. You have your reunion dinner, and you have all the things that you should say and all the things you should not say. But for the Jewish people, faith and culture was very, very much integrated. This year, Chinese New Year will be very sad for me because my daughters won't follow me back. My daughters has become Mrs. Chung and Mrs. Ui. And then they have to go back to their own culture, their own family. So let the two birds, Papa bird and Mama bird, will go back in one car, back to Johor. Yeah. So Chinese New Year will be quite sad for me this year. Yeah. But I remember just 3 or 4 weeks back, I called my family together. I called Mrs. Chung and Mrs. Ui, to my house, and I tell them a little bit. I say, yeah, you need to now follow the culture of your husband. If you have to go Penang, go Penang. You have to stay back KL, stay back KL. Yeah. So I had to tell them and teach them something else that they need to do in their new position. But as a Christian, are we able to integrate our belief, our faith into our culture or not? This is something that we need to think about.